Greetings, friends. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday night, nation. Don't adjust your dial. That is not Trace Trelko. He is enjoying some family time. But my good friend, Dolly Drama, who's been busy doing a lot of stuff lately, haven't had him on the show in a while. So happy to have Dolly with me tonight as a co host. Dolly, what's up, my friend?
What's up, brother? It's been a long week. I can't believe we're already a quarter over of the year. Spring practice is in full swing. We're living some March Madness right now in the Sweet 16. So things are moving, brother. How you been?
I'm good, man. Is March the best sports month of the year? Is that the best sports month?
Yeah, I think on the tail end of it, I think it has a little bit of something for everybody. And then if you're not on the round ball, you could you got the Masters coming up in April as well.
Yeah.
Your hoops hat, you got your NIT, baseball's back. I think you're rolling, yeah.
All right, March it is. And March also is spring camp, Dolly. So scrimmage on Saturday. We're back to spring camp. We had practice today, practice number 4. We haven't talked to you in a while. So I'm curious a couple of things from you. One, what are your thoughts generally on spring practice? Are you guys excited about spring ball? You guys digesting the videos, or are you guys like whatever, it's glorified stretching? Who cares?
I felt a little bit weird watching all the content that we've had the last few weeks because we were so starved for it from Gus. You'd see just a jump cut of a guy throwing a ball and then an interception. You didn't know who it was, and then we'd figure it out, 4 weeks into the season. But no, I think spring ball is good. I think there's some excitement, especially when you have a new coach or a coach returning in our sense. Just seeing how the pieces fit together. I think it's a little bit more exciting too when in the portal era. Because you're going to have guys turn over with the rosters, and then you kind of want to see who you can kind of keep under wraps because the portal is going to open again at the end of the camp. So it'll be interesting to see. You can suffice some needs, but I think you're going to learn a lot though.
Well, what we're going to learn too, by the way, I don't know if these stats are correct. Every week, Trace reads these. According to Mr. Matt Dolan, 22 weeks until the start of the season. And according to our friend, fifth quarter UCF, 154 days. Did anyone fact checking these? I don't really know if these are accurate or not. I trust these two guys, right?
I trust them. They're learning for the love of the game too. I think Josh Pay does that too, like every Saturday, X amount of Saturdays till game day. But yeah, you kind of get juiced about it. I think you're at that point of the year that you can kind of start looking ahead of it. It was too early after January, February, but once you get into March, you kind of get some things rolling. You get the NFL draft. You see some of the guys that you rooted for last year make it to the next level. So yeah, I think it's good.
What is your biggest question heading into the spring camp? What's the one thing that if you come out of the spring camp learning or understanding that you'll feel satisfied?
I just kind of want to see. Obviously it's QB1, and if they're going to stick to it, I think we've always come out of spring camp heading into fall camp a little bit not knowing who's going to be our head signal caller, and I just wanted to be open competition, see what we got. There's some guys on there, and if you're looking at the way that videos are coming out, it's looking like Dylan Risk may be getting third team reps or just kind of mixing it up the third and fourth with a Cam Fancher. But Dylan Risk is quote unquote like your QB4 in a room, and that's a pretty solid room to kind of be playing with. I'm just excited to see what type of offense we're going to kind of see. And I think Frost even told us that he doesn't know if it's going to be a UCF fast type of deal. So he's going to have to tailor it to the strengths of whatever signal caller that he has, which he did with Mackenzie Milton and in his regime when he was here the last time. So I would just be interested to see, if it's going to be a Jackson or is he running a Ja'Cory Brown, just to kind of see what our kind of weapons will develop. And I think it's going to need to develop with that receiving core because they're kind of green at the moment.
All right, let's check out your video breakdown skills, Dolly. I'm gonna play this and then we'll come back. I want to check out your film breakdown skills. All right, you've seen all you need to see, Dolly. Who's QB1, buddy? Who's QB1 based off of the 5 seconds of video we get from our good friend Andrew Cherico when he's out of practice every couple of days?
I love our interns grabbing all the content. I think I like that drop back from Jackson. I mean, he's got that QB stance and he just kind of launches it. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. Sometimes I want to have some good hair too, Mike. It'll be interesting to see what he pulls together. I don't know. I thought Cam Fancher's had some darts, man. I haven't seen a lefty sling it like that since he shall remain nameless left us. So it'll be interesting. I want to see if Dylan Riss has that fight heading into spring. I think definitely one of these guys will be heading into the portal. But from what I saw, I kind of like what Jackson's put on tape.
Yeah, Jackson seems to be, at least by the videos, getting a lot of reps, a lot of good publicity. Something about Cam Fancher, man. I'm not saying he's gonna be the starter, but there's a lot to like about Cam Fancher, except for the fact that he's played for two other teams and hasn't been good. But his tape on spring ball has been pretty good. But let's look a little bit though with the receivers, Dolly. So quarterback's one thing, but we have to understand who the heck they're throwing the football to. And today at spring practice, we had a chance to get to know a couple new receivers and an old friend of ours, and Sean Beckton Sr. Let's take a listen to some of the sound that Andrew Cherico captured today with the receiving corps.
Yeah, we're throwing with those guys more than I've ever thrown with the receivers, quarterbacks combination, also with the tight ends. You know, we've done that in years past with Coach Frost. This year, because we got so many good quarterbacks that we're trying to work through, we're spending a lot. It's taken away from our indies a little bit, but we're trying to get some cohesiveness with all the quarterbacks, and we're rotating groups so the quarterbacks get a chance to experience some of the other receivers, tight ends, running backs. You know, so that's been a little bit of a process that I hadn't been around, but I can see why we're doing it, because we're still trying to figure out what the quarterback situation is, and also receiver situation and tight ends. I think it's going really good. We started out doing it day one and have picked up on it. You know, we've actually added a little bit more to it every single day we go out there, and I think that's helping us.
Versatility is like everybody's got to do their job for it to work. You know, everybody's getting the ball. We've been pounding the ball, running it every single day, you know, getting good yards. Running backs been running the ball pretty hard. Receivers been getting down the field, getting open. Tight ends get the rock. Good pulls, good blocks. So, like, it's just really open for everybody. So.
I see a lot of playmakers. It's a lot of playmakers. From the slot position, we got freshmen that's playing, like, outstanding. They're learning everything. As far as my role, I just want to be that twitchy guy, that speed guy. I want to be the leader in the group. You know, I'm going into, you know, the back half of my career, my college career. So I'm really trying to be, you know, the leader. Just being consistent, you know, keeping them motivated, keeping them going.
All right, Dal, you're a smart guy. Give me some psychoanalysts here for me. You're like, I watched those videos today, right? I watched Dwayne Thomas, I watched DJ Black, impressive young men, really good job at the podium. I found myself more excited just watching those interviews. Why was I excited watching those interviews? I'm literally watching nothing, but why did that get me excited?
You know, I think we didn't have a lot of access to these guys with the last coaching staff, and in this transactional era of NIL and the portal, it doesn't always have to just be like that. You kind of have to build a relationship with these guys, and I think there's an arc of, it's being led, the position group that's being led by a UCF legend that had success here in the past, and he's been a coach for the better part of this century on staff, more so than not. And I think they're just kind of speaking the right language. It's not just stars and booms and potential. It's just kind of like, hey, we're working through this. I think there's something cool about being on the ground level of it as well. We're kind of seeing it kind of come together. We haven't had this access before, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's some revisionist history. Maybe it wasn't the same with like an O'Leary or even Frost's first go round. But I think it's cool to just kind of have this insight. These guys talking about, I want to make it on the second back half of my career, or just kind of, the room is green, but we're working through it. You want to see that progression week to week as spring camp happens, and hopefully we're in a better spot once we start fall.
Yeah, what's your take on that? Do you like the fact that you've got two guys in Dwayne Thomas and DJ Black who talked openly about chip on their shoulder, something to prove? They didn't really get everything they wanted, so they're here to kind of prove what they have, versus a Javon and a Kobe who you kind of knew who they were, right? Do you like the sort of the hungrier underdog, chip on their shoulder mentality, or do you like knowing the commodities you have on your team?
I mean, there's a reason why the commodities kind of fall your way, especially in the portal. But I think, there's some guys that, Kobe Hudson started in the doghouse here with Gus. He didn't play for that first Louisville game. He kind of worked himself in, and he was here for a long time. 2 years now is a pretty, almost like an eternity for these athletes now when you have them at your school. But I like that chip on the shoulder. Get me some guys from the lower levels, from the G5, FCS that just wants to cut their teeth and move on the way up. And then on the same side, we got some coaches that are looking for some redemption as well. I think it's a group of guys that are just ready to work. And I'll always root for that, and I think Frost's philosophy of, we're not just going to pay kids NIL coming in from high school or just from the portal, just because you're looking at, peeping stars. But if you earn your keep and you produce, then we can definitely take care of you. And I think that sentiment has been felt with the group.
Well, one guy who's been on site to catch it all and take it all in is our good buddy Matt Michelle from the Sentinel, who was kind enough to take some time out of March Madness watching to join us here tonight on the show. Matt, first off, buddy, thanks for taking time to join us.
No problem, no problem. I got the games on the TV over here in the office, and it's plenty of time to talk a little bit of college football and college basketball.
All right, let's start with this, Matt. 5 practices in. What do you know now that you didn't know 5 practices ago?
That's a tough one. I think one of the things we know is the fact that this is a clean slate kind of team, going in with this. We talked to a lot of the coaches, we talked to, a lot of the players. There is no definitive depth chart right now, at least not one that they're willing to share with us. And a lot of the players are going in with this attitude of like, listen, I've got an opportunity here to make my name, to make my business right now. And I could go out there and earn a spot and be able to do that. And it's only 5 practices in, but we've heard a lot of that positivity surrounding this program. There's a lot of these guys that are transfers coming in, guys that maybe, have been at other schools that maybe are looking for a bigger opportunity. They're going to try to get that here at UCF. And the coaches themselves are real excited about this. I think they're hosting their first scrimmage on Saturday. There's a lot of positive buzz surrounding the program right now. And I think that's really been the one thing that stood out to me, is that this isn't like a group that kind of has a structure in place and is ready to go like we saw the last couple of years. This is really this is like a clean slate. Everybody's really kind of getting their opportunities to kind of see what they can do.
You've had a chance, and I think it's unique what UCF's doing. You get a chance to talk to different coaches, different players at the end of each practice. Has anybody kind of stood out to you? Anybody really impressed you so far, either what you've seen maybe in the 7 minutes you get to tape stuff on the field or the time you get to spend talking to the coaches and players?
I think the quarterbacks, we haven't had a chance to talk with the quarterbacks yet. We're going to get that probably next week, but the quarterbacks have all looked, looked impressive to me. I mean, again, you're talking about a short window of about 15 minutes, but you get a chance to see them on the field. They've had an opportunity to do some things, showcase a little bit. Obviously Frost is keeping it very generic when we're there just to kind of showcase some stuff like that. I thought that, we've seen a lot from the receivers. We spoke to a couple of the receivers today. We spoke to Sean Beckton, Sr., the receivers coach, and we spoke to Dwayne Thomas and DJ Black. And, both those two guys have talked about the speed and athleticism coming out of that group. And that's a group, really, if you think about it, guys, that is just wide open. I mean, there's like, I think it's maybe 60 yards of total offense that they're returning from last season from this group. And so it's really, I mentioned the clean slate. That's what this group is. And so there's a lot of buzz about that, the speed factor, what they're going to be able to do. So, tight ends group has looked, I thought so far has looked pretty good. The defense, we've seen a couple things here or there, but again, guys just kind of going around and firing off the ball, really trying to make a name for themselves. And it does really kind of that feel of a spring practice, guys really trying to make themselves out there.
You talked about today, Matt. I mean, those two guys were impressive. You and the rest of the media folks did a really nice job. Dwayne Thomas, really impressive. DJ Black, impressive. How much did you enjoy how much do you, I guess, enjoy from the media standpoint, getting to know some new guys? Not that you didn't like some of the other guys, but last year you kind of had a revolving door of the same players. How much do you like getting a chance to know a Dwayne Thomas and spend time and learn from some of these guys?
Well, I love it. This is the best part of the job for me, is to really get to kind of learn who some of these guys are. I mean, that get an opportunity to find their stories, what really makes them go. Dwayne Thomas, Sean Beckton called him Speedy, as he's walking out of his press availability. And we asked him right away, Dwayne was like, why are you named Speedy? And he talked about as a kid, that was the nickname they gave him on the practice field, when he was on, and that just kind of stuck, and everyone has kind of taken that with them. And he talks a little bit about, kind of one of the reasons he's a slot receiver, and even though he's a younger guy a little bit, he still feels like he's taken on a bigger leadership role for this team. And I think that's important to hear, get from these guys. What do they think about this coaching staff? What do they think about this program? DJ Black, who's coming from, from a program like Limestone College, he talked about getting the opportunity to play at a Power 4 program, and being able to step up and do that. He called Sean Beckton the OG, when it came down to it. These guys are really, they're kind of loving their opportunities to see that. And I think, to me, that's what I want. I want to know some of their stories. I want to know what's going on with these guys. Why are they excited about being here? Why do they feel like this is going to be the perfect opportunity for them? Because, again, this is a chance for some guys to make their name, or if not, a chance to move on somewhere else. So they're trying to take their best foot forward right now in this practice.
Matt, you've been on the beat for a couple of years now. Have you noticed a kind of an energy shift for this spring camp from years past? And do you see any kind of leaders emerging from the people that you've seen thus far?
I do feel like there's a little more pep in the step, so to speak. And I'm not taking anything away from what we've seen over the last year or two, but it's just, I just think because there's a new coaching staff, because of the fact that you've got a lot of buzz surrounding this program. You look at the fact that there's a lot going on around the athletic department. The construction is ongoing as we're there at practice. They're in the process of doing the Roth Tower, renovations right now. That's been kind of ongoing. They're working on the Hagel, gateway area. That's been going on. There's so much construction going on. For some reason, to me, it just feels like you just see that there's change afoot, right now. And I think so I think the players have felt that way. The coaches have been great with us so far. I mean, we every morning, we sit out and wait in front of the practice field, and then all the players and coaches come in, and a lot of times they'll come over, give us shake a hand or say hi, and come over and just ask us how we're doing, and just kind of are eager to talk to us. And that's kind of refreshing to me. Not that the other staff wasn't that way, but
Right.
You just feel like, okay, as long as we get off on the right foot, this is kind of what I want to see happen for us. I want to see there being that kind of back and forth a little bit, and the give and go that we can kind of get out there and see what they're able to do. So it's been exciting for me so far. I mean, and again, it's only 5 practices. We get a limited window, but it's nice to see what we can.
Do you expect us to have some more clarity on our QB going into the fall, or do you think that's going to be kept close to the vest through the summer?
I think that's going to be fall, and it wouldn't shock me, honestly, guys, if Frost doesn't make an announcement. It's going to be the game 1, type situation, like right before the game starts. I think he wants to keep this as close to the vest as he possibly can. I know during spring they've been very hesitant to really kind of promote guys, really go out there their way to say, well, this guy's done a great job here, or this guy's been really good at this thing. They've really kind of kept it kind of close to the vest. I think that's because of the portal. I really do believe that they're afraid that they've pushed guys out there too much. Then one guy will say, hey, this guy's getting too much attention. Why am I not getting that much attention? That kind of situation. So when it comes to the offense, we're just getting pieces here or there. Sometimes a player will say, hey, this guy had 2 or 3 picks in last week, and that kind of gives us a little bit of tip. Otherwise, it's been pretty much they're promoting everybody. In fact, I've get the impression that when we talk to the quarterbacks, we're going to talk to all 4 quarterbacks. It's not going to be 1 or 2. It's going to be all 4 of them. So again, it's all about maybe trying to be guarded before they get to that transfer portal window in mid-April. Once that gets through, then I think you'll see a little bit of kind of idea. Sean Beckton told us today they have an idea kind of what some first team guys look like, but they're nowhere near close, I think, to putting a depth chart. So I wouldn't be shocked until we find out who QB1 is until, like I said, maybe right before the first game.
Matt, Coach Beckton was asked today a really interesting question. He was asked, how has he seen Coach Frost change from his previous time working with him? Obviously, you covered him before. You've been around him a little bit. Have you seen any change in Coach Frost this time around versus what you remember from last time?
Yeah, a little bit. I think he's a little bit more guarded, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just think when he was here the first time, you got to remember he was a first-time head coach. He was a pretty similar age of a lot of these guys, and I think he was very much. He would come out after practice, and he would really horse around with the guys and maybe go run on the track a little bit and find ways to kind of unwind his energy and do some other things like that. I think this time around, it's more. You could tell he's got the focus. He's really, it's about recruiting. You see him on the field a lot of times talking to recruits when they're on the field, after practice. And I also think that he's looking at the portal and seeing what's going on and taking care of business that way. So I don't necessarily see the kind of jovial at times, yucking it up with us. We had an availability a couple weeks ago, and he came out and he talked to us, and before he walked up to the area for the interviews, he was walking in with his kids. He had his kids in his arms, and they were holding his hands. His wife was with him, and you can see that family atmosphere that he's kind of talking about. I think he wants to kind of continue that, but you could see that he's definitely more focused this time around. And I'm not to take anything away from what last time, but he feels like he's definitely been. He's got a little more experience to him. He's a little more mature. And that's what all the coaches have told us. He seems a lot more mature than he was first time around. And, I think that's starting to pay off a little bit in how he handles things. Plus, it's a different ball game. I mean, with the portal, with recruiting, with NIL, with all that stuff, he's got to really kind of stay a lot more active than he probably was the first time around.
Matt, have any of the new assistant coaches kind of stood out to you, either just by their personality, maybe the way they coach? Anybody kind of caught your eye from the coaching staff in general?
Well, obviously the first one's Mackenzie Milton. I mean, I've known Mackenzie since he was here, as a player, and it's just we spoke to him, during a media day with the coaches, and again, he's a guy that's just, he's got that energy, the KZ energy you love to see. He's on the field all the time. I told someone the other day, I had a weird moment where he was standing on the field coaching up Dylan Risk, and Dylan's wearing the number 10, on his jersey. And I just said it was a surreal moment to see there's KZ standing next to number 10, on the field talking to him. So I kind of thought, okay, that's kind of a weird moment, but he's been really good. I mean, guys like Brandon Harris has been really good. Had some really good conversations with him. Sean Clark, the offensive line coach, has been really good. Steve Cooper's been great, talking a little bit about some offensive philosophies. There have been guys right now. I think all these guys are very, they're young, and some of these guys have been around the business. So there's a good mix of that, like young and old type of coaches in there as well. Mike Dawson's been there for a while with Frost before. He's a big high energy guy. You see him on the field now everywhere, running around his defensive edge guys and hitting, slamming into them a little bit. Zach Duvall, obviously with the strength and conditioning, has been running around that as well. And it's just interesting to see some of those guys. I think we talk about how you create chemistry with the players, but I've also wondered, how do you create chemistry as a coaching staff? Normally when a new coach comes in, he's got 4 or 5 or 6 guys that are his kind of guys, and they kind of come with him to a job. For Frost, it's been like, okay, I've got some guys that I worked with in the past. Here's some other guys that I've known. So this is a brand new staff. And so kind of creating that chemistry and that buzz and having them come here and understand exactly what they're trying to do at UCF it's just kind of an interesting thing.
What's your take on Alex Grinch? He looks like a real cerebral guy, in his interviews when he kind of talks. And this is a guy that was at, some more prestigious programs, quote unquote, at USC. And, he was a rising star. He looks like a guy that, kind of fits the DNA of kind of on a redemption tour here. What have you kind of seen from him? And, what have you heard players say about him as well?
Yeah, I think you're very right about the redemption factor thing. I think he talked about this in one of the coaching availabilities that, him and Frost have a lot of similarities. They're both there's a little bit of that redemption factor there. Both guys have kind of crossed paths before. They've worked in systems or at schools where they've had similar systems. You think about Grinch. He worked with Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley liked to go kind of up-tempo with their offense. He was with Urban Meyer at one point, understood what was going on there, worked with Chip Kelly back at New Hampshire for years ago. So I think he understands exactly what's kind of the defense is needed to go against a team or an offense that's going to be similar to what UCF is going to run. So I think there's a very good understanding there. And I think him and Frost have a good relationship. And I think that's something that's exciting to see. And Grinch, you're right, is a cerebral guy. I mean, you talk about schemes, you talk about what you think is going to be important for them. I think you're going to see a lot of different rotations of guys going in and out. He talked about being a 4-3 scheme. Also says we're going to go 3-4. He says we're not afraid to move around. We're not afraid to do different things depending on what we see out there and which teams we're in it facing. So I think it's going to be interesting to see with all the players he has, the talent and athleticism he has on that side, what they're going to be able to do. It's a really, you think about this defensively, it's a more experienced part of the team rather than the offense. I mean, they've got a great amount of talent up front on the line. The linebacking crew's all new again, but the secondary is going to have lots of depth and lots of athleticism. How are they going to make that work together? I think it's going to be interesting. I think he's the guy that's really trying to sit down and figure out how to get all these pieces together.
Let's pivot a little bit. Some basketball. So if you have portal news opened up this week, we bled out a few players, some key departures with Mikey Williams, Jalen Sellers is entering the portal, Keyshawn Hall declaring for the NBA draft, and he could come back depending on a draft grade. What do you kind of foresee? Terry's been kind of mum. There hasn't been anything from the admin. Johnny Dawkins is going into his last year. We're coming into a postseason run with the Crown. We got no high school recruits. What are you kind of the buzz you're seeing there? And is there anything that of note that you can tell us that Johnny's trying to target from the portal?
Well, I mean, I think that's the thing. When the portal opened up, a bunch of players went in. I think people were kind of, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I think you have to remember that's been typical of what's happened year in and year out. It's actually typical of college basketball in general, is the amount of players that jumped in there. I think what makes it stand out more is that UCF has a game coming up, next week. And so I think people were kind of concerned on that. I know that Tyler Hendricks and a couple of other guys that were in the portal are going to be able to play and are expected to play in Tuesday's game. So that's a decision made by the coach. That's made by Johnny. And basically, they've opened up opportunities for them. A lot of the other guys maybe were hurt or banged up and weren't playing to begin with. They probably will not be, participating as it goes. I think we've asked about this a couple times about getting Johnny to talk about the game, the Crown game next week, and we've been told he's been very busy. Obviously, they're hitting the portal really hard. You mentioned he really didn't do much with the high school, so he's got to go through the portal ranks. And I think right now it's an important time because what was there, over 1,000 basketball players that jumped in there in the first 3 days. So my guess is he's out there trying to hit as much as he can, trying to see what they can kind of build next year. I mean, they really, if you look at what they're going to have, I mean, it looks like they're going to have almost nobody coming back next year. And now maybe, like he's a Keyshawn, if he decides, he doesn't get a good draft, assessment, and maybe he decides, hey, I will come back. I'm not going to transfer. He would be a huge piece of what they would try to do. Mustafa, again, is another guy that if they can convince him to come and return for another year, my guess is he's going to get a lot of NIL interest. There's going to be a lot of schools that are going to go after him. Can UCF find a way to keep him around as well? If you got a couple of players like that you can build off of, then you go out and kind of see how they do it. I think if I'm Johnny Dawkins, the biggest thing for me when you're looking at this transfer class is you tried getting all these guards this past year, and it didn't necessarily work out the way you wanted to. I think he needs to focus on some size. If they can keep Mustafa, they need to get some size around him, to help him out a little bit, to really kind of give them some depth in that area, and then add maybe some scoring pieces around it. They're going to need a point guard, someone who can really run the offense well and get the ball moving around. So I think that's going to be key. So it's going to be a crucial time for Johnny. I mean, if this is, they're going to have to recruit. They're going to have to work hard. They're going to have to get the NIL going, and they're going to have to maybe to get, people to understand that, again, you're looking at 10, 11 new guys probably going into the next season.
Now, what's your take on UCF playing in the Crown? Obviously, a new tournament, it's kind of a made-for-TV event by Fox. All expenses paid allegedly. There's an NIL pocket at the end of the deal. What's your take on UCF actually even playing in the Crown now, especially knowing that where the timing lines up with the portal, where there's obviously some opportunity for risk like we have now with guys in the portal, but still wearing a UCF jersey?
Yeah, I think if this wasn't an all expenses paid trip to Vegas, I don't think UCF would have been in this. I've been told by several people that UCF would not have played in this tournament. I mean, it would have. I mean, obviously there's a lot going on with the portal. I think if Johnny's future was even more in doubt, I think they wouldn't have played in this. But I think when you get an opportunity to go somewhere and play in the postseason, you want to have an opportunity to take it. Again, and there is an NIL component to this. I mean, there's if the winning team gets, I think it's $300,000 for winning the players do for NIL. I mean, and that's a huge deal if you think about it. And there's even more if like second, third, and fourth place. So. I mean, there's going to be opportunities there if they can get everyone to kind of come aboard and they can make a serious run at it. I mean, there are other teams in this tournament that have lost players to the portal and everything like that. So there may be a good chance for them to maybe surprise some people. I spoke to a Fox executive this week who said, listen, they like this tournament. They love this idea. They want to do Big East, Big 12, Big 10, Power 4 basketball. They want to see these schools get in there. They want to give fans kind of like, okay, we understand that the final, the Elite Eight is going on, and but we're giving you basketball at this time when there's nothing going on, and they feel like they can get a lot of attention there. And if they're willing to put the money out there and spend the money, they feel like there's an opportunity for teams to do that. Now, whether they'll be able to convince teams to maybe skip or bypass the NIT and come to something like this, well, yeah, if it's all expenses paid, why go to an NIT game where you got to go to Dayton or something, where maybe you go to Vegas and you get a chance to, you don't have to worry about where you're going to get the revenue for it to pay for it. So it's going to be interesting. And again, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, if UCF makes some sort of miraculous run and gets into like, the quarters or the semis, I mean, it's kind of a nice way to finish out this season, and maybe you get an opportunity to kind of showcase your program a little bit as you're trying to recruit through the portal.
All right, Matt, you're a great follow on Twitter, by the way. For those who maybe aren't following Matt, do that now. You'll get sports coverage and you'll sometimes get occasional nuggets like this, Matt. I saw this meal you posted the other day, and I've been hungry ever since I saw this. Can you, A, describe for me what I'm looking at here in the plate? Because it looks delicious. And B, tell me it was as delicious as it looks in the plate here.
Oh, it was fabulous. This is jam hot chicken. That is a place in Winter Park that I got a recommendation from a good friend of ours, UCF Biggie, I think you know,
Yep.
who's around, and it kind of suggested we get it. And so my wife and I had an order brought to our door after I was working one afternoon, hot chicken and mild chicken. And the hot is, I'm not gonna lie, it is hot. I mean, it is like, you know, like you'll feel it for a little while, but it is delicious. They make their own pickles. They make 2 different types of coleslaw. It was unbelievable chicken. Some of the best tenders I've had here in the state of Florida. And so, I mean, whenever I get an opportunity, like a good meal like that, I got to share it with everyone. I don't get any endorsements. They don't send me free chicken. I'm not chicken for life here.
Yet.
But at least,
Yes.
yes. but at least I'm gonna say, hey man, it was delicious, and I appreciate recommendations. Anytime anyone gives me them, I like to try them out.
I don't know how to ask this question other than just asking it this way, so I just will. Tell me more about those pickles. Those pickles look delicious.
Oh yeah, like I said, they make them on their own. I mean, they were just. I'm a pickle guy. Like I love a good, you know, like a cured pickle, especially if it's got a good little vinegar kick to it. This is what this had as well. The slaw we had was like one was a creamy slaw and one was like a vinegar slaw. So it was really kind of a nice change of pace for everything. And like I said, I mean, the sides sometimes can help make a dish, but that was unbelievable to me. And then I mean, it was a long week, a lot of stuff going on. I was at softball the other night with Florida, and you know, I needed something to kind of pick me up. And so my wife said, "Hey man, why don't you go let's put in an order and get that." So I dove on, and it was great. I'm looking forward to having some again.
Matt, your last meal, if you were on death row, what would it be?
Ooh. I'm gonna say it's got to be barbecue. I mean, I'm just a barbecue guy. I mean, and I'm not sure, like, you know, I'd love to have a good rack of ribs, you know, some brisket, and definitely give me some of the beans and the cornbread and some stuff like that. You know, really where you kind of just sit down and kind of have a meal. I'm everywhere I've gone in the country, you know, where I've gone in places, I always try to find a good barbecue joint, you know what I mean? And sometimes you find it. It's easy in Kansas City, for instance. You're always going to find good barbecue. And in Texas, you got great barbecue. But, you know, to me, it's like going to Iowa and finding great barbecue. Which we did when we went to Iowa State. You know, going someplace where maybe you wouldn't associate barbecue being and finding that to me is like one of the kind of thrills of it. Because there are so many ways to do barbecue, different ways to do it, and people kind of have a passion for that. So for me, of a last meal, that's probably what I would end up going with. I could also say too, I'd also love a bowl of cereal. Maybe I mean, it just depends on the mood you're in. You know, sometimes a bowl of, you know, Fruity Pebbles or something, you know, seems to strike the chord. But I think barbecue would be my last meal if I had to have one.
Love it.
All right, you can find all of Matt's coverage again on the Orlando Sentinel. He does a great job covering football, basketball. You're not going to the Crown, right? You're going to be watching it at home with the rest of us?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to watch it with the rest of us at home. I told someone the other day, I said, listen, don't get me wrong. Vegas would be a great trip, but I don't think they wanted to invest the money in case it ended up being a short trip. So plus we've got some people covering the Gators and the March Madness and Sweet 16. So we've got people kind of spread out. So I decided to stay home and watch it from home.
We need to get you that chicken NIL, and we'll get you out to Vegas to watch the game. But Matt, always a good sport, man. Thanks for hopping in, and have a great night. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. You guys take care. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, brother.
Matt Rochelle. That chicken looked fantastic. I'm not gonna lie.
I saw it too. I had that as a question top of mind, but I didn't know you were going to pull the picture on it too. It's perfect.
No, I mean, listen, I've been thinking about that picture for a while, Dolly. But all right, listen. So we talked a little basketball there. We did a little switcheroo. You are somebody that a lot of people are curious your basketball opinion. The stats are on the screen here: 17-16. Obviously, not a great record in the Big 12. Going to the Crown. Doesn't seem like we have any changes coming up, at least from a coaching perspective. Obviously, a new roster probably coming in place. What's your perspective? Where are you at right now with the basketball program, Dolly?
I think I got kind of to see what Terry's kind of plan is going to be going forward. Obviously, I don't think we're moving on from Johnny. He's going into his last year. He had some injuries this year that were kind of unfortunate. I'm a little bit bummed with how the whole Jalen Sellers situation happened. He was definitely injured for long stretches of this year, but I think just it's a malady of this portal situation with also having unlimited transfers in it as well. You kind of just don't know if a guy just decided to mail it in early in the year. So it'll be interesting to see what we kind of put together with the roster that we have. Apparently Johnny's got it from Robert that Johnny's watching tape, and that's why he's not hitting the portal so hard at the moment. I would hope we can win this game. I mean, the 20-12 team for Oregon State, they play in the West Coast Conference, same conference as Gonzaga. They actually beat Gonzaga this year when they were ranked 16th. They lost North Texas, Oregon, and Nebraska. Those are the only quote-unquote power programs that they played for the year. I don't know what the spread is on this game. I would hope that we can win that game, and then if Cincinnati plays DePaul, we'd meet up in the second round. I mean, Johnny hasn't beat them in 5 meetings. So I'd hate to make that trip all the way to Vegas and then come back, but I guess we're not flying on Southwest out there anymore since it's kind of all included. So I don't know where we're at. I mean, we don't really have a brand of what basketball is. It's just kind of up in the air. I think we obviously put our eggs in our basket of the bell that brought us to the ball that was football. But I mean, Brett Yormark cares about basketball, and if you saw the March Madness numbers, there's an appetite for competitive hoops, and we're in a premier basketball conference, so we need to kind of make some moves. I heard some rumblings that maybe Rick Pitino was interested in coming here. Obviously, the connection with his Mike Rapoli, which is the St. John's alum that has given Richard Pitino his kind of lauded for his run that he's had. So it'll be interesting to see. I think if we can get some whales and just some guys that are interested in hoops and build an appetite for it and kind of curate those pockets. The name is obviously NIL, but can we do it with someone that's on the come up? That's going to be using us as a stepping stone to move on. I'd rather be a stepping stone like a McNeese or a UNT where a guy comes in and he's hot for 2 or 3 years and then leaves you, than just kind of making one tournament every decade. So it'll be interesting to see. I hope that we can win this first game against Oregon State. I don't think we should hang a banner if we win this tournament.
There we go. Yeah,
I think that's a little ridiculous, but I'll be watching. It's 5:30. It's good happy hour time.
You said something. It's a dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway. You said the spread. Are people betting on the Crown, Dolly? You think people throwing some scratch on the Crown?
Some people. I checked it on the Twitter search terms, and they just said that the line should be out sometime this week. they have to. I mean, it's in the backdrop of Las Vegas, so you would think that they have it. I was kind of curious to just see how tickets are. You can get courtside seats right next to the UCF bench for the first session as well, which includes Cincinnati versus DePaul, $150. And you could sit courtside. Yeah. You can sit courtside. So it's a little bit of a smaller gym too. Kind of looks like the venue, just a little bit. It's the MGM arena, but I'll be interested to see. And I think Cincinnati, like there's guys in our league that are they're some guys are entering the portal and they're still playing. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know, man. I'm a little bit miffed in some of these guys that kind of still be able to play. I mean, now we have to field a team, but it's coach's decision. So
it does feel awkward, right? Like, I'm going to root for Nils Mahosky when he hits a jumper. Should I be happy or sad, right? Happy because he's doing well for UCF, or he's not going to be here next year. So it is.
They're building tape for themselves. I mean, you got a Keyshawn Hall too. I mean, you have NBA scouts out there as well. Putting that together. It'll be interesting if he gets a grade that he doesn't want to get and decides to go another year somewhere. He's been at George Mason and UNLV. So it's just the name of the game, though. And I think people are getting a little bit miffed at just all these transfers and just not knowing what the roster looks like. You just got to be loyal to the logo. People are going to come and go, admins, athletes. Your degree will always be your degree. And you just keep the show rolling.
Of the portal guys, Dolly, who's the biggest loss on this list I have on screen here?
I'm going to say Sellers, just for the investment that we already had in him and didn't pan out this year. I think Michalski came off the bench and rolled into a depth piece, but I think Sellers for sure. It'll be interesting to see what Johnny could do. That was a good point that Matt made. We had a lot of guard play this year, and it was great for shooting, but there wasn't a big defensive presence on the back end. And I was just thinking, if you had DM and like a Diallo from years past. That could have been 3 or 4 wins right there. So it'll be interesting to see. Johnny will put something together. I'll get excited about it. An out of conference game early in the season next year. Wash, cycle, repeat, and hopefully.
Yeah, we had too many duplicate pieces on the team this year, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. You know who else knows a lot about basketball, Dolly? Is our good friend Andrew Cherico, who's back for another men's basketball minute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Cherico, and welcome back to your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute. UCF continues to prepare against their upcoming matchup against Oregon State in the first round of the college basketball crown. Oregon State is no pushover as they average the 4th most points per game in the West Coast Conference, led by 17 points per game from their leading scorer, Michael Ratai. The Beavers also boast the 2nd best defense in terms of points allowed per game in the WCC. With 3 graduate seniors and 7 transfer portal players, it is unsure who the Knights will suit up for the college basketball crown, as it is possible the graduate seniors and the transfer portal players are allowed to play in the first round and the rest of the college basketball crown if the Knights advance. As the Knights tip off in Vegas Tuesday, April 1st at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And until next time, thank you for watching your Sons of UCF Men's Basketball Minute.
No cameo this week from Cherico Senior there, unfortunately. But Andrew, a good egg. Again, follow Andrew on Twitter at Andrew_Cherico. Speaking of Big 12, speaking of hoops, it's our time to talk to Jeff Fallon. I also have sad news to report. BYU got curb stomped here by Alabama. So BYU out of the tournament here on the first time. But let's listen to Jeff Fallon and see what's going on with the Big 12.
4 Big 12 teams made it to the second weekend of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. In Sweet 16 action this evening, 6-seed BYU should be nearing the conclusion of its matchup with 2-seed Alabama. After Suns Live, 4-seeded Arizona battles top-seeded Duke on CBS. And starting just after that one, Texas Tech as a 3-seed takes on the highest remaining seed with number 10 Arkansas on TBS and True TV. Tomorrow night, Houston as a 1-seed takes on the 4-seed Purdue, and that will tip after 10 p.m. on TBS and True TV. The brand new college basketball crown will be played next week in Las Vegas. All first-round action will be on FS1. Monday, Utah battles Butler at 3 p.m. and Arizona State encounters Nebraska at 8:30. On Tuesday, Cincinnati takes on DePaul at 3 p.m., UCF against Oregon State at 5:30, and Colorado clashes with Villanova at 8:30. Sweet 16 action in the women's NCAA tournament finds 2 Big 12 teams left in action. On Saturday, second-seeded TCU tangles with 3-seed Notre Dame at 1 p.m. on ABC, and Kansas State, a 5-seed, goes against the Juju Watkins-less USC as a 1-seed at 8 p.m. on ESPN. With your Big 12 minutes, I'm Jeff Allen.
Shout out to Jeff. he's a legend.
He's ready to pull out of the bullpen, man. Get Allen moving.
I think he got that done early so he could. I don't even know if they're played today, but I assume that if they did, he got that done early. But shout out to Jeff for also giving us the women's basketball scores, which I forgot that was also going on at this time as well, because frankly, our women's team not so good around here. But what are you rooting for Big 12 teams, Allie? Now that we're a Big 12 member, do you find yourself caping up for the Big 12 teams? If you're watching a game with no rooting interest, are you like, hey, I might as well pull for the Big 12 over some rando school from Big 10 or ACC or something?
Oh, yeah. I think there's some narratives that are forming, especially some new contracts coming up in 2031. So, the further these guys go in the tournament, more credits we get as well, monies that we get shared. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know what's not going well these days, Ollie, is baseball. They had a tough weekend. They lose 2 or 3 to Houston. Then they go to Jacksonville, and somehow they give away runs on airs and lose at Jacksonville midweek, which is not great. They're going to be at Cincinnati this week, which again is another conference game. But we've got you covered baseball wise because we've got a lot of interns around here, Dolly. And so here's Andrew Gregg with your baseball minute.
Andrew Gregg for the Sons of UCF, and after a scorching hot start to the season, the Knights have cooled off a bit, losing 3 of their last 4, including a 3-2 midweek loss against the Jacksonville Dolphins. The Knights' bats that start off so hot have only driven in 18 runs over the course of the last 4 games, while on the flip side giving up 17 runs in that same stretch. Knights head coach Rich Wallace knows that there's a lot to improve on, and this team can play better moving forward.
Well, we're nowhere close to playing as well as we can play. They know that. We know that. there's some things we need to clean up. And in this league, you got to play great every time you go out there, play the right type of baseball. And if you don't, that's what it's going to turn out like. And you got to take your butt whooping like a man and get ready for Tuesday.
The Big 12, it doesn't matter home or away, you're going to get a tough battle.
Yeah, and it's crazy stuff's going to happen. Like even last week, the stuff that happened in the 8th and 9th inning of all 3 of those games, that's just what happens in this league. The guys that have played in this league before, they understand it. And if they didn't understand it today, they should by the time they do it.
UCF will look to snap the skid starting Friday as they head on the road to face the Cincinnati Bearcats, who currently sit at the bottom of the Big 12 Conference. For the Sons of UCF, I'm Andrew Gregg, and this has been your Baseball.
Gives you a hostage video vibes. Yes.
Yeah, that was well, I was glad to hear Trokel's voice for a second.
Was that a two-handed selfie he was holding? Was that, or you think that was on a computer on a desk?
That was interesting. Maybe a tripod. You don't know.
Who knows? I do know that Michael Theed emptied his 4 on Twitter. He does some fantastic work covering baseball for us. He's at every game or watching every game. Great breakdown right now on SonsUCF.com. He's got a breakdown of what happened against Houston, what happened against Jacksonville, and a good preview of what to expect from Cincinnati. So feel free to handle on over to SonsUCF.com and check out Michael's work. Matt Michelle mentioned it earlier. Softball, big win, Dolly. They beat the Gators at home. They were scuffling a little bit too of a loss to a sweep against Iowa State. Beat the Gators. Now they're going to go on the road against Baylor. Were you locked in for that game, Dolly? You a guy that big game on in-state rival. You can catch softball on the Dolly drama televisions.
Yeah, I mean, I was rooting for the girls softball team. I think it was good. I think there was an article that Michelle pushed out that the girls got away for a little bit, went to like a lake house or something, and got their mentals right, and then kind of came back to it. I think it's the only shutout for Florida this year. It's a top 5 team, in-state rivals. So it's a midweek game. The always SEC book of excuses. We'll throw that out. But no, I think it was great. I think we had a heartbreaker up there as well, where our bats just weren't even going. So I think it's good. I know Coach Bear has been kind of holding the flag for prominent teams in the putting together in the Big 12. So if she can get it going, I'd love to get to a regional and see what we got cooking. There's some good support out there as well. And it's fun too. I want to see if we bring my niece out for a game or so.
Again, they're at Baylor this weekend. Quiet weekend on campus with baseball and softball, both playing away games. All right, Dolly, there's a lot of pressure for you here. Now we got Who Said It from the Pegasus podcast. So if you're not familiar, you're going to play the Trace role. This is going to count for Trace. So this is whoever you do is going on his official record. All right.
He's the opposite.
So I'm going to read you a quote that either Christian or Bailey said on this week's Pegasus podcast. And you have to tell me who you think said this quote. Okay. Here it is. I got so viscerally angry yesterday morning. And this was before the speeding ticket.
Ooh. I think that's a Bailey.
That's a Bailey. Let's see when the crowd sources this. I don't see anybody in there. We're going Bailey. Let's see what we got.
I got so viscerally angry yesterday morning, and this was before the speeding ticket that I've now brought up 3 times. But
I want to know more about the speeding ticket. I want to know more about the speeding ticket. A lot of people had Bailey in there as well. So I think that makes Trilka now 4-1, I think. So you've continued the winning streak for Trace Chalco. Let's go around the kingdom really quickly. Are you a UFL fan, Dolly? Because if you are, they're kicking off maybe this weekend. They may go on strike. Apparently there's some labor problems here currently. So it's supposed to be a game tomorrow night with the Houston Roughnecks, which features one Sam Jackson, but Marlon Williams, Cole Schneider on the Birmingham Stallions. So if you want to get some football in your life, you want some UCF players, a few sprinkled out there on the UFL roster. Dolly, can I interest you in some UFL football?
Yeah, if you can bet on it, I'll watch anything.
All right.
Sprinkle a little bit.
There we go. Ranked. All right. Apparently we're a tennis and rowing team because we're ranked 18th, 19th, and 25th in rowing. So just when you thought things were looking bleak, Dolly, have no fear. Tennis and rowing are here to save us. So buckle in for hopefully a nice ride from both of those teams. Speaking of nice rides, Trace Trilko, Eric Lopez mix it up every weekend around the kingdom. Here's a clip from this week's show, which is available now on YouTube and anywhere you get podcasts.
Yes. Boy, they looked a lot more focused, didn't they? Boy, they needed that week off, Trace. I thought they were locked in.
Refreshed. They were refreshed, just like Gus Malzahn.
I do like the fact. What do you think was the last time we focused on special teams at a practice? It's been a while, right? Like maybe that'll get going. Yeah. Maybe, we probably haven't had a good special team since Scott Frost was here the first time. Maybe this is the answer why we were good back then. We actually focused on it. Maybe that's just me, but that's.
Special teams talk only on Around the Kingdom. Dolly, do you hope special teams is better this year?
Yeah, I was listening to that Pete Alomar interview. The way he talked about special teams and just being like, you got to be mechanical, methodical, and just do it the same way every way. I've never heard this before. He's like, you got to kick it through the pipes. And I was like, that's pretty, just kind of a little bit cooler way to talk about kicking field goals. It was cool. I like his MO and process, and it's better than the last special teams coordinator we had. So I'm excited.
Yeah, he's a trip. I actually ran into him at Burger U having lunch, and just went over and said hello. And like I got 20 minutes of just sound bites out of Pete Alomar at Burger U, man. So he's a cool dude. But I got sad news, guys. I'm not sure what Trace is going to do. He's been pretty upset with the Brian W. Peterson mailbag. I don't know if he wants more questions, wants different questions. I'm not really sure what he wants, Brian. So if you're out there, do something about this. But maybe for the last time, everybody.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
Long live our buddy Brian Peterson, who is probably living in a spreadsheet and one of those giant calculators with the things on the bottom of them. We saw a picture of that poor guy's got computers everywhere in his house, Talib. So shout out to Brian Peterson. It's almost over soon, right? Isn't tax season almost coming to an end?
April 15th. Probably some late filings too. He'll be fun.
Ryan Peterson will emerge from the cave at some point in time. Trace usually reads these, so this is fun for me. At UCF_Zach, is Competitive Success Fund a good name for whatever the hell that thing is?
No, I think it should be Championship Success Fund. You got to sell the sizzle a little bit. It's not a bargain. You're getting great value. So yeah, it could be a better name.
And he asks also, given the state of our many programs, how much do you think fans want to donate just to be competitive? Do you think fans want to get championships? Do you think they'd be more willing to donate if they felt like there was an opportunity for UCF to compete in some of these sports?
I'm not pocket watching other people. I mean, people are gonna have their threshold of what they want to kind of support, but I think it's just the messaging of how you kind of package it. I think there's some places now that are keeping their NIL collectives to be in addition to the revenue sharing, but we got rid of the kingdom way before that. So I think people just want to see wins, and I think if you see some wins, the purse strings will open up a little bit as well.
All right, at Riley Carey 16, is Alex Grinch a mean one, Mr. Grinch?
I like that dude. People were just had their things of just he failed here and failed there, but his interviews are solid, man. He looks engaged, and I think it's a good kind of foil to, or maybe sort of a compliment to Frost. I don't know. I just kind of like it. I think it's a little bit different too. I mean, we had, Leary was a defensive guy through and through, and then we had an offensive infusion with Frost, and Chinander was good, but people forget we gave up a lot of points during that era as well. So some scheme, some Big 12 bodies in the P4 and a redemption tour. I'm excited to see what he can do.
He definitely looks very serious. He doesn't look like he's the kind of guy that's telling a lot of jokes.
Those Lululemon pullovers. I'm like,
he's a big fan.
He's sharp. He's sharp.
He doesn't seem like a kind of guy to throw a whoopee cushion on your chair, but hopefully he can coordinate some defense. At Two Doctors' Dads, with all of the portal entries, how will we field the team for the crown, Dolly?
Hope. Just see what happens. Everything we want to do is still in front of us. We can win the crown. It'll be fun.
At Knights, at Blue Sky here, I can't pronounce all that, nor will I try. With the loss of Mikey, who do you think will be the big scorer for UCF next year in basketball? And he writes she writes, tongue in cheek. So who do you think anyone will be a scorer next year in basketball?
I think we need some people on defense, to be honest with you. Juice kid, Ivy Curry, just kind of, he's coming back. Maybe that's a piece that we can kind of build around. We'll see what happens. I'll tell you one thing. Adam Hood, the coach that we got from UTSA that came over, he coordinated some pretty solid offense. He was de facto OC for us this year. Just the defensive side wasn't a signature Donnie Dawkins D. So we'll see what we can do. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting. Every year we're putting it all together. It's Frankenstein.
Give me some betting odds on Robert's point here. What are the betting odds on Mustafa Chum coming back next year?
I don't. If he's not going to the NFL, I hope so. That's literally like one of the last things that the Doc Riders are holding on to is special relationships with these big centers. So if we can't kind of keep him and see where he goes, but that is the piece to give your NIL kind of kingdom coins too. So if we can do something homegrown and build from there, we'll see what we can do. But I don't know. I don't think he came from high school to play for Dawkins. I think there's someone else on the staff that he's keen on as well. If we can keep him and build around him, it'd be great.
Yeah, he's. I think he's close with Mamadou Njai, who is the assistant coach there. Golden Knight _2 has a question. Rank the following sports from most disappointing to least entering the Big 12. And he's got a bunch of icons here. So I got basketball, I got football, I got soccer, I got baseball, I got volleyball. So which sport is the most disappointing from least? So I guess who's been the greatest to who's been the most disappointing out of that list?
I mean, I think baseball is a surprise for first year, new coach or second year in the league, but first year with the coach. I think, I mean, towards the most disappointing, I think it was football just for the resources that we put into it. And then on the disappointing end too, they don't play in the Big 12 though, right? The soccer team, weren't they ranked like
women's soccer does, men's soccer does not.
But men's soccer was the one that was ranked number 1 overall in the country.
We were number 1 for a whole week.
Yeah, and then it just
we got bounced.
Kind of just cratered. So just there, but
could you make the argument? Which team is last to you, football or basketball?
Most disappointing?
Yeah,
football. I think football is.
Is it close?
I've come to terms with what we have with basketball.
Okay, fair.
The bad bill goods. You know what I mean.
Okay. All right, this next one's hard to pronounce, so he actually gave us the pronunciation. It's Scott DeRocha. So it's Sad DeRocha, I believe is how you say this. He wants me to roll the R. That's not something I'm capable of doing, Dolly. I don't know if you.
DeRocha.
There we go. With Oviedo Brewing closing, who's producing the next UCF official microbrew?
No more beers. We should do a whiskey, so you can make some whiskey sours. So just fan base has been kind of need some liquor.
What do you call the UCF whiskey?
I don't know.
Saturday.
Yeah. That's not bad at all.
Last one from our friend Marty Hellwood wants to know who's playing in the Crown. As Matt Murshell told us earlier, he expects Tyler Hendricks to play. Looks like Nils Mahosky and potentially at least one other guy, maybe JJ Taylor, will be suiting up as well too. So tune in Tuesday, 5:30 Eastern, and you'll find out, just like we are, who was actually playing for UCF in the Crown tournament. All right, Dolly, we had fun time. You ready? So what's in the box? Our good friends at Alumni Hall, 4100 North Alafaya Trail. They got cool stuff there. We got 2 left, Dolly. You want right hand or left hand?
Left.
Left hand it is. Here's the question. How many times did you get detention or suspension when you were in school?
I was a pretty good kid. And my parents were both teachers as well. You want to know a funny story? My mom was was a teacher in my school in middle school. And then when I got to high school, my dad decided to not be a dean anymore and was a teacher at my high school as well. So I had to be in my P's and Q's all throughout. I don't think I've ever got detention. Definitely
no detention.
No
suspension, no detention. See, this would have been a lot better for Trace Chilco because he would have been like, "Oh well, I didn't."
I could do the Trace Chilco.
Go ahead, give me the Trace.
But I could have. No, I don't think so. I don't.
Trace, I need you.
There was in second grade.
Where I need you is wherever you are, Trace. I need you to answer this. I believe so. I had one detention. I don't think UCF Mike was in this class. He might remember this, but I don't know if he was. Well, I didn't get attention from that guy, Mike. But so we had a Spanish teacher whose name was Miss Hershkowitz. Figured that one out for me. And so she was yelling at the class, and we were all talking. And so she says, she's screaming. She's like, "That's it, everybody be quiet. I'm going to have the last word," right? And so my desk was near the front. So she walks past me and she says, "I will have the last word." Right, Adam? And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And she was like, "No, I'm going to have the last word." Right? I'm like, "Go for it. Cheers." And one more time. She's like, "I'm going to have the last word." I'm like, "I'm not arguing with you." And so I got detention apparently for talking back to her. So I went to the principal's office, the dean, who I knew really well. And he was like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Hershkowitz." He was like, all right, whatever. Go back to class. And so it didn't really count in terms of detention, but Miss Hershkowitz in, I think it was sophomore year Spanish, maybe freshman year, might keep me honest on that. She tried to give me detention.
My dad was a dean on the west side of Orlando, and he used to have like the contraband drawer that we get to see like every summer. And it was incredible, like MP3 players with like the best playlist of music, and, just contraband that you just couldn't have. It was pretty fun though. I was a good kid though.
What are your in-school suspension? Is that a good deterrent? Is that better than out-of-school suspension? Because my kid's school these days, they give him in-school suspension. There's no out-of-school suspension. So if you get suspended, you got to stay at school.
Yeah, I think ISS was even worse because you'd have to do there'd be like a psychologist there too. I knew the whole system, just the teachers and all that. You'd have like 3 days ISS or like summer school too was another thing as well.
Is it possible you didn't get in trouble because like the other teachers didn't want to do anything?
No. Okay. No, there was definitely some times like a missed assignment or something that like an email was sent like within the hour, like, "Oh, by the way, everyone else turned this in, but he didn't."
Oh no.
So they were. I was good though. I was pretty square.
What's it like having your parents teach at the same school? Like, were people like trying to be your friends so they wouldn't get in trouble, or people kind of buddy with you? Were they like making fun of you because your parents were there?
No, my dad was like teaching like ninth grade like remedial reading. I was like in honors classes, and then my middle school, my mom was like teaching like exceptional students, so like kids with special needs. So those kids were like cool. We're like, oh, we love you. But and then my sister was like 2 years younger than me as well. So we've always had our kind of parents in the mix, but it was fun though. But the principal would be on your ass like, hey, what's up, Mr. Dolly? Like, type of deal. So hey, it's all your parents. Like, hope you're keeping it up. So.
I don't know if we've ever asked you this question on the show. How did the nickname Dolly come to you? Is that something you invented as kind of like a scream name? Is something that you've had for a while? How does Dolly come to be?
I think I was on the dungeon and I was just kind of dormant for a while, and I wanted to play on the Dalai Lama. And then I think Hellwig used to go to war with each other. I used to post like crazy stuff on a different handle. And I was like, I think we started our undefeated run, and I'm like, dude, this is unprecedented. Can I please post again like on the dungeon? And he was just like, are you gonna chill out? It'll be funny. That'd be like a good read the next time we hang. Just the DMs of that. And I was like, yeah, I'll behave. So I came back as Dolly Drama.
You're a big Salvador Dolly fan, Mr. Matt Dolan. Dolly's a very well-read, very well-educated, very classy man of the arts, but I'm not sure about that one. But Dolly, it's been a lot of fun, buddy. Thanks for hopping in for Trace Trucco, who's enjoying some time with his family. And so we appreciate you hopping in. Against scrimmage on Saturday, not open to the public. There'll be some shareholders there, though. So if you know a shareholder, maybe shoot him a text around noon and see what kind of info you can get to find out more about the team. Obviously, we'll have a slew of stuff going on this week. We'll have a recap from Andrew and Dwayne Jones. We'll have a bunch of stuff coming out. Caitlin Russo on sonsofUCF.com. So make sure you keep it locked in for Sons of UCF. For Dolly, my name is Adam. Hold on a second. We got, all right. Looks like
Nice.
Jericho's got a recap here. Check it out. Done when it's live. All right. All right. What a tease.
Little bumper promo.
He's teasing something that isn't even out yet. That's fantastic. Andrew Jericho. I can't wait to see it myself. But until then, everybody have a fantastic Thursday. Have a great weekend. We will talk to you soon. Go Knights.
Be well. Charge on.